It all started with a knock I didn't even hear. I was in the kitchen halfway through making dinner when my 5-year-old son came tugging on my sleeve and said, "Mom, Aunt Jess left." Left? What did he mean left? I walked into the living room and there they were, her twins, Ava and Max, sitting on my couch with their tiny backpacks, and no sign of Jess. No message. No goodbye. Just two wide-eyed kids and an awkward silence. Let me backtrack for context. My sister-in-law Jess is, to put it nicely, a walking disaster. Always has been. Unstable job history, sketchy boyfriends, dramatic lifestyle, and a habit of dumping her problems onto anyone within shouting distance. My husband, Mark, has always enabled her. She's going through a rough patch, he says. Funny how her rough patch has lasted a decade. I'm not heartless. I've helped out before. But this time felt different, calculated, cold. She texted me around 3 p.m. Jess. Hey, can I drop the kids off for a couple of hours? I just need to run an errand. Harmless, right? I said yes. She showed up with the kids at 4:15 p.m. No car seat, no diapers, no spare clothes. Just backpacks filled with snack wrappers and one stuffed bunny. She barely made eye contact. Be back in a bit, she mumbled. That was the last I saw of her for 18 hours. I called. No answer. I texted. No reply. Her phone went to voicemail by 9 p.m. My husband tried calling to nothing. At midnight, I debated calling the police. I didn't. The twins were asleep on our couch, curled up under a throw blanket like orphans. My husband sat beside them on the floor and whispered, "She's never done this before." But she had, just not this blatantly. When the sun rose and there was still no word from her, something snapped in me. I made pancakes for the kids, dressed them in whatever semi-clean clothes I could find, and told Mark, "Get in the car." He didn't ask where we were going. He knew. We pulled up to his mother's house, the shrine of excuses and blind forgiveness, where Jess is still seen as a misunderstood angel. Mark stayed in the car with our son while I walked the twins up the driveway and knocked. Mel opened the door in her robe, clutching a mug that said "World's Best Grandma." Without waiting for her to speak, I handed over Ava and Max, kissed each of them on the forehead and said, "Ask Jess why she thought this was okay." Then I walked back to the car, sat down, and didn't say a word all the way home. Jess finally called at 3 p.m. "Jess, where are my kids?" "Me, at your mom's. Where you should have taken them in the first place." Cue the nuclear meltdown. Accusations, guilt-tripping, and an Oscar-worthy performance about how I endangered her children, how I abandoned them, the irony. She even had the audacity to say, "You should have known I needed a break." Excuse me? A break? From what? Casual parenting? Here's where things took a twist. My Mel called me later that night not to scold me, but to apologize. Turns out Jess didn't go on some soul-searching walk. She went on a date with a guy she met online. Drove 2 towns over to stay at his place. Left her phone in the car so she wouldn't be distracted. I couldn't believe it. Not even a lie to cover her tracks. Just a casual desertion for 18 hours and a shrug. Now the family group chat is on fire. Half the cousins are taking my side. One aunt even said, "Honestly, it's about time someone stood up to Jess." But of course, others are saying I escalated things by bringing the kids to Amiel's house without warning. Mark is torn. He agrees Jess was wildly out of line but worries this will tear the family apart. So, am I the Aholi for refusing to play doormat to my sister-in-law's neglectful parenting? Or did I do what needed to be done loud and clear? Jess went silent for 3 days. Not a word. Not a peep in the group chat, no calls, no texts. Just a heavy, tense silence like the kind you get right before a thunderstorm rolls in. Meanwhile, life at our house was chaos. Mark was sulking, trying to play peacemaker between me and his family without actually confronting anyone. Our son started asking why his cousins weren't coming over anymore. And I was exhausted emotionally, physically, spiritually. Then came Sunday dinner at my Amiel's house. A weekly tradition. A sacred unspoken rule that everyone shows up. Rain or shine. Unless you're in the hospital or on fire, you come. I wasn't planning on going. Frankly, I didn't feel like being in a room where people stared at me like I just kicked a puppy. But Mark begged. "We should show up. Just to clear the air," he said. I laughed. Clear the air or get ambushed? Still I went. I shouldn't have. We walked in and Jess was already there, sitting at the kitchen table with her arms crossed, wearing a smug little half-smile like she was the one who'd been wronged. Her kids weren't with her. The tension hit me in the face like steam off a boiling pot. Emil greeted me with a forced smile. Mark's cousins avoided eye contact. My father-in-law poured himself a whiskey at 4 p.m. And then it began. Jess stood up, cleared her throat, and launched into a speech that sounded rehearsed. I just want to say I never meant to cause this much drama. I was overwhelmed. I thought I could trust family to help when I needed space. I didn't think I'd be judged or punished for it. She looked straight at me as she said that last part. I kept my mouth shut. Let her talk. Let her unravel herself. Then my Emil chimed in gently. Maybe next time, Jess, just leave a note or communicate a little better. A little better? She ghosted her kids for 18 hours. I lost it. I don't remember all the words I said, but I remember standing up, my chair scraping the floor, and my voice shaking not from rage but from something deeper. Betrayal. You're not overwhelmed. You're irresponsible. There's a difference. You didn't leave them with me for a couple hours. You lied. You vanished. You left your children, your actual human children, with no warning, no supplies, no clue if you were even alive. Do you know how terrifying that was? Jess tried to interrupt, but I wasn't finished. And you didn't go to a hospital. You didn't have a breakdown. You went on a date. You abandoned your kids so you could get laid. So don't stand there and twist this like I'm the bad guy for doing damage control. The room fell silent. No one defended her. Not even her own mother. That's when the twist hit. From the corner of the room, my teenage niece Mark's older brother's daughter spoke up. Quiet but clear. She left me once too. Everyone turned. 2 years ago, she continued. Aunt Jess said she'd take me to the movies. My parents were out of town. She dropped me off at the theater with cash and said she'd be back in 2 hours. She didn't come back till midnight. My phone died and I had to ask a theater employee to call a cab. I never told anyone because I thought maybe it was my fault. Jess's face drained of color. Mel looked like someone had slapped her. Why didn't you tell me this? She asked, voice shaking. Because you never believe anyone when it comes to Jess, my niece said. And I didn't want to cause trouble. There it was. A crack in the facade. It wasn't just me. It wasn't just this one night. This was a pattern. Suddenly, the room was filled with overlapping voices. One of the cousins said she remembered a time Jess left her baby with her for just 20 minutes and came back 3 hours later, reeking of weed. Another cousin recalled Jess borrowing money and disappearing. The entire family dynamic started unraveling in real time. Mark stood there frozen, eyes flicking between me and Jess, like watching a train crash he could no longer stop. Finally, Jess yelled, "You're all just waiting for me to screw up so you can feel better about your boring little lives." She stormed out, slammed the front door hard enough to rattle the window panes. I wish I could say things improved after that the truth set everyone free, and we all went out for ice cream like a sitcom ending. But life isn't a sitcom. Jess didn't speak to any of us for weeks. Emil called me privately and apologized genuinely this time. She admitted she'd been shielding Jess out of guilt, out of denial, out of love twisted into something enabling. She also admitted something else. She used to do this when she was younger. Leave school, disappear, lie. I always thought she'd grow out of it. But people don't grow out of patterns unless they're forced to face them. We didn't see Jess again until Ava's kindergarten graduation, nearly 2 months later. She showed up late, sunglasses on indoors, no apology. Just picked up the twins and left. That was the last straw for Mark. He sat me down that night and said, "I'm done protecting her. I see it now." I cried not out of sadness but out of relief. Because for the first time in our marriage I wasn't alone in this. We're not cutting Jess out entirely. We've set boundaries. Clear ones. No unannounced drop-offs. No more lies. No more getting away with chaos under the name of family. And if she crosses that line again, she'll find the door closed. I thought that moment at Ava's graduation might be the end of it. That Jess would retreat into her bubble of self-righteous silence, and we'd all quietly move on, carrying our wounds in peace. But Jess doesn't go away. Jess simmers. Jess plots. It started with vague posts on Facebook. Some people pretend to care about kids, but really just want control. Or, family should lift you up, not abandon you when you're down. I didn't respond. I refused to engage. But others did. One of her friends, some woman I'd never met, comment, "Wow, who does that? You deserve better, mama." To which Jess replied, "Myself. Left my babies with someone emotionally cold and manipulative. Thank God I survived that." I stared at the screen for a long time. My hand trembled as I showed it to Mark. "She's spinning the story," I whispered. "She's turning herself into the victim." Mark took the phone and quietly said, "I'll handle it." To his credit, he did. He called her, not texted, not emailed, called and told her flat out that the online drama had to stop, that she wasn't going to use social media to rewrite what happened or paint me as a monster. She cried, of course, accused him of choosing his wife over his blood. To which he replied, "I'm choosing the truth." That was the beginning of a shift. Tiny, almost imperceptible changes in the family dynamic began to unfold. Mail invited us to dinner again, but this time it was just us. No Jess. No cousins. Just our little family and hers. She cooked roast chicken and mashed potatoes, and for the first time in years, the conversation didn't revolve around what new disaster Jess had wandered into. She asked about our son's school, about my work, about Mark's promotion. It felt normal. I left that night with a knot in my stomach, not from stress, but from something unfamiliar, hope. But Jess wasn't done. 2 weeks later, Child Protective Services showed up at our door. Yes, you read that right. CPS. I opened the door to a woman in a blazer holding a clipboard and wearing a practiced, neutral expression. "Are you Mrs. Rachel Haynes?" she asked. "Yes. We received a report of potential neglect involving 2 minors recently left at your home overnight without proper supervision. We're just following up to assess safety and gather context." I blinked. "You mean the twins? Jess's kids?" I'm not at liberty to say who filed the report. My knees nearly buckled. Mark stepped in, explaining everything. The twins had been dropped off without notice. Jess had not returned for nearly 18 hours. We had food, beds, clothes, everything. They were never in danger, they were abandoned. The woman nodded, took notes, and asked to walk through our home. I agreed. I had nothing to hide. After a brief tour and a few questions to our son, who proudly showed her his dinosaur drawing and said, "My cousin slept here on the couch," she smiled faintly and said, "This seems like retaliation, but I'll file the report accordingly. You've clearly done nothing wrong." Retaliation. The word hung in the air like smoke. Jess had crossed a line. A nuclear line. We had proof now. A government agency involved. Mark called her. Put her on speaker. "What the hell, Jess?" he said, his voice low and shaking. "You reported my wife to CPS?" Jess denied it at first. Laughed. "What are you even talking about?" But the tone in her voice changed when Mark said, "They showed up with details only someone close to the situation would know." That's when she snapped. Well, maybe someone needed to see how it felt to be judged and accused all the time. Mark stared at the phone like it might catch fire. "This isn't a game. You're weaponizing the system. You could have destroyed our lives. Do you even care?" "You destroyed mine first," she whispered. "You sided with her. Always her." Click. She hung up. That night, we sat in the kitchen in silence. Our son was asleep. The clock ticked, the refrigerator hummed, and we just sat there, 2 people exhausted beyond words. Finally, I said, "I want to go no contact." Mark looked up. "With Jess?" "With all of it. The drama. The guilt. The eggshell walking. I want peace." He nodded. "So do I." And so we made the decision. No more contact unless it directly involved the kids' safety. No more enabling. No more saving Jess from herself. We unfollowed. We blocked. We stepped back. And you know what? The quiet was beautiful. A month passed. Then 2. Our son started a new art class. I picked up a freelance writing job. Mark got promoted to team lead. We had dinners without fights. Days without dread. But of course, silence from Jess isn't peace. It's a buildup. Came to a head on Halloween. Our neighborhood throws a big block party. Costumes, candy, games. We dressed up as a family, Mark as a scarecrow, me as a witch, and our son as a dinosaur. We were halfway through the event when I saw her, Jess, standing by the bouncy house, holding Ava and Max's hands. She made a beeline for us. "Hey," she said, voice tight. Mark tensed. "Jess, I just wanted to say I'm sorry." I blinked. She looked pale. "Not sick, Jess. Empty. Like a balloon someone let all the air out of." "I lost the kids for 3 hours last week," she said quietly. "I took them to the mall and Max ran off. I couldn't find him. It was the worst moment of my life." She took a shaky breath. I think I finally get it. What you were trying to protect them from. What you were protecting me from." We stood there stunned. "Jess?" Apologizing. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," she continued. "I just wanted you to know that you were right. I was reckless. I was selfish. I scared them. I scared myself." Tears welled in her eyes. Ava clung to her leg. "I'm in therapy now," she added. "I signed up for a parenting course. Mom's helping. I'm trying." And for the first time in years, her words didn't sound like an act. They sounded like surrender. Mark nodded slowly. "That's good, Jess. That's really good." She glanced at me. "I understand if you can't trust me, but thank you for protecting my kids. Even when I didn't." Then she walked away, hand in hand with her children, disappearing into the crowd. We didn't chase her. We didn't invite her back into our lives. But for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel anger. I felt grief. Grief for the years wasted. For the damage done. For the pain that didn't need to happen. But also hope. Because maybe, just maybe, Jess was finally waking up. Hope is a dangerous thing. It creeps in when your guard is down, whispering that maybe things will change this time. That maybe people can grow, heal, be better. And for a while it looked like Jess was doing just that. She stuck with therapy. Mil mentioned cautiously that Jess was attending parenting classes regularly. She had stopped leaving the kids with random people, and instead arranged consistent childcare through a neighbor. She even called Mark and Jess to thank him for holding up a mirror when she couldn't see herself clearly. We didn't rush to forgive. We didn't rush to forget. But we watched. Carefully. Quietly. There were still boundaries. She wasn't coming over. She wasn't calling me. She wasn't part of our day-to-day life. And honestly, that space saved us. It gave us time to breathe, to recover, to feel like a normal family again. Then came Ava's birthday. Mel wanted to throw a joint party for Ava and our son, whose birthdays were only 10 days apart. A small backyard thing. Cupcakes, balloons, a rented bubble machine. First I hesitated. But Mark said, "Let's try." So we did. And you know what? It was okay. Jess showed up on time. She brought a gift for our son. She kept her distance but smiled and made polite conversation. No drama. No guilt trips. For 2 hours we were just cousins and parents and grandparents watching kids chase each other with bubble wands. Later that evening, after the last balloon had deflated and the last juice box had been crushed under tiny sneakers, I found myself sitting across from Jess on the porch steps. The kids were inside. Mark and Emil were cleaning up. The sky was fading into purple. Jess looked tired, but not the chaotic, frayed kind of tired I'd always seen in her before. This was honest tiredness. The kind that comes after real effort. "I don't expect you to believe I've changed," she said without prompting. "But I have. At least I'm trying." I nodded. "I can see that." Silence. "I was angry at you," she continued. "For a long time. Because you did what I should have done. You drew the line. And I hated you for it." "I wasn't trying to hurt you," I said softly. "I was trying to protect your kids. And mine." "I know," she said. Then, "I used to think asking for help meant dumping my mess on someone else's lap. But you made me realize real help isn't just about handing someone your problems. It's showing up, staying accountable, being someone worth trusting." I didn't have a clever reply. Just a quiet, simple truth. "It's not too late to be that." She nodded. And for the first time since I'd met her, I believe she heard me. We didn't hug. There were no tears. Just a quiet truce. And sometimes that's all you need. Months passed. Holidays came and went. Jess stayed consistent and perfect, yes, but present. There were still moments, slip-ups, frustrations, but nothing nuclear, nothing explosive. And eventually we did forgive. Not with grand declarations but with small things. An invite to coffee. A text on Mother's Day. Letting the kids play together at the park without watching every second like a hawk. One evening, as we were watching the kids build a blanket fort in our living room, Mark leaned over and whispered, "You were right to take a stand." I smiled. "You were right to back me up." And there it was, not just healing between Jess and me but between Mark and me too. Because that's the thing no one tells you about family boundaries. They don't just protect you from others. They protect your peace, your marriage, your sanity. Looking back now, I don't regret what I did. Yes, it was dramatic. Yes, it felt harsh. But it was necessary. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for someone is to refuse to let them self-destruct in your presence. Sometimes the only way people change is when the mirror they've been avoiding gets shoved right in front of them. And sometimes, the line you draw in the sand is the thing that finally shows someone where the shore ends and the ocean begins.